Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the moment of truth. Oh, say it ain't so! Say it ain't so! Seems hard bootlicking just doesn't pay off like it used to, or rather it does pay off exactly the way that it used to, 'cause it don't pay off. It's been a rough year for Joy Taylor and that gaggle of goofballs she hangs out with, or rather used to hang out with. Speak has been silenced. I think the show was called Speak for Yourself, but nobody cares. It was the Temu version of that Screamfest Stephen Smith does. In a development that will surprise absolutely no one, Joy Taylor has now gone the way of another Joy who worked at another network, Joy Reid. And just like with Joy Reid, if it wasn't this, it would have been something else. Joy Taylor's contract with Fox Sports has not been renewed. The network looked and said, we'll take a hard pass on that one. The white media stories covering this event are calling it a shake-up, but in reality, it's actually a crackdown. Now, we all knew that Joy Taylor's days were always numbered. She was basically a pair of boobs with some lipstick. She brought nothing to the table except her cleavage, and you can't build a career on that, at least not as a sports commentator. I mean, honestly, you could have put up a poster of a woman on the set, and that would have been better because at least you wouldn't have had to hear Joy Taylor's garbage, cringe-worthy takes. The headlines about her getting canned were barely 24 hours old before she was already online thoughting it up, trying to thirst trap the next desperate white media executive, or maybe some rapper or athlete who's on the downslope of their careers and is looking for something halfway decent to put on their arm. Joy Taylor slept her way to the middle, allegedly. She got to the first rung of the ladder and then immediately slipped. But she's not the only one whose show got a one-way trip to the toilet. Emmanuel Acho, our favorite tether, he also got the boot too. They gave him his walking papers, unceremoniously of course. And here I'll bet he thought that he'd escaped the axe once he left Speak and got on The Facility, which is one of the dumbest titles for a show ever. You know, when a network or studio gives a program one of those non-title titles, that means that they don't really think much of the show or the people on it, and Acho's involvement was certainly proof of that. Sure, he's like that other tether Stephen Smith. He's loud, obnoxious, and loud, but he has no real charisma, no real talent. The camera doesn't like him, his takes are more garbage than a landfill, and there's nothing about him that compels viewers to come back. But if I was a betting man, I'd say the odds are 50-50 that he manages to slither his way onto some other outlet. Hell, it wouldn't necessarily even surprise me if a year or so from now Fox Sports offers him something else. And if that happens, that'll just go to show that the cockroaches really will outlive people after World War III. But back to Joy Taylor. Nobody can say that they were surprised by this. Everybody was just counting the seconds until her flabby behind hit the pavement. According to the lawsuit that was filed by Taylor's former colleague, Nushin Faraji, Taylor was allegedly having an affair with Charlie Dixon, who was the executive vice president at the network and the guy most responsible for Taylor's brief rise at Fox Sports. He's since been let go. This while Taylor was a married woman. Taylor, of course, denies all of it. But there was one other claim that Faraji made in her lawsuit that I thought was equal parts hilarious and revealing. Faraji claimed that she had warned Taylor that she shouldn't be sleeping with the boss because that was dangerous, and according to Faraji, Taylor explained that she was now also powerful too, just like her boss, and once Mr. Dixon was no longer useful to her, she would follow through on her plan to tell the company that he forced himself on her. She would not allow herself to be forced out by Mr. Dixon like other women talent. And what happened in the end? She was forced out just like the other women were. I find it hilarious to see the words "her plan" in a sentence about Joy Taylor. As I said in my other commentary about this, the lawsuit claims regarding Taylor mostly have nothing to do with any alleged harms to this Faraji woman. They mostly seem thrown in order to make sure that whatever office gossip, rumors, and innuendo about Taylor that there was would become public, because practically everything about Taylor in the lawsuit was just airing her dirty laundry. This is highly unusual with lawsuits, by the way, but nonetheless, one has to wonder if maybe this Instagram-level model, actress, whatever, was seriously thinking that she was going to Me Too the guy who gave her the job in the first place. If Joy Taylor had worked at a company that was majority female, and even then that's no guarantee, her plan would at least be a viable option. Go ahead and dog out the guy so the other girls can get on code with you. But this is the real world, where the entire reason that she allegedly had to do the get down with this doofus-looking executive was because that was the way to climb the ladder. And the only way to execute her plan would be to get his buddies, who would almost all be male and definitely all be white, to go along with it and can him on her behalf. By the way, just out of curiosity, when has any black woman, even a light-skinned one, ever been able to make an accusation of any sort against a white man in power and get him to be removed? When has that ever happened? The only time white men in power pretend to play along with that game is if the black woman happens to be making an accusation against a black man, or at the very most, against a non-white man. Every time a black woman made an accusation against a powerful white man, she was either refuted by white women, like Lena Dunham did when she openly denounced Aurora Perrineau after she accused a TV writer of raping her in 2012, or in other cases like when Lupita Nyong'o made accusations against Harvey Weinstein, they just ignored that altogether. So I don't know what power Joy Taylor thought that she might have had, but she's finding out she's nowhere near as powerful as she imagined herself to be. Turning some heads isn't the same as being able to lead people around by the nose. The reason people tend to believe, or at least not push back against the characterization of Joy Taylor made in that lawsuit, is because it jibes completely with the arrogance and self-evident narcissism that she exudes. She thinks she's God's gift when in reality, she was simply there as window dressing. She was an on-air accessory, basically a potted plant, something to have on set in order to create interest. She was already in her 30s, for God's sake, and even she had to know that the writing was on the wall, so at this point now the network executives are free to find some other empty-headed mid-20-something bop that they can go ahead and put in front of the cameras. Hey, here's the new hotness. Joy Taylor wasn't the first female to benefit from the horniness of these reprobate corporate executives, and she won't be the last. I'm sure, though, I'll get the comments flooded with people who are saying bootlicking is a career path that doesn't come with a retirement plan. Well, in the case of Joy Taylor, she was licking more than boots, allegedly. So, what's her next chapter going to be? I, for one, can't see any of the big networks taking her on. Fox Sports wasn't big to begin with. And especially since that lawsuit put out the idea that she's looking to Me Too somebody. Will she pop up on some panel show, maybe? Perhaps, but the question is, what media executive is going to roll the dice on her? She's not a draw. Nobody's saying, hey, Joy Taylor could go and do a sports show. She knows so much about sports. Why, she could go to this or that network or radio station or even a podcast. Nobody's eagerly waiting to see what it is that she comes up with next. And anybody who was dumb enough to watch Speak because she was there, well, they clearly weren't doing it for her insightful commentary. She didn't know squat about sports, and it showed, even to someone like me who knows nothing about sports at all. And she didn't have to know a thing about sports. That's why she was the one holding the cue cards. She knew what her job was. Wear tight outfits, preferably with plunging cleavage, pretend to laugh at Acho's lame jokes, and give her own cringe-worthy sassy comments from time to time. So people outside of Fox Sports are as clueless as she is as to what she might try to do next that anybody would actually care about. Her bus line does not make a show. There's simply far too many of these thoughts out here calling themselves businesswomen when in reality they're employees, nothing more. Though I gotta tell you, if I was a betting man, I'd say that it's even odds at this point that she winds up starting an OnlyFans before it's all over. Try to see if there's any losers out there who are stupid enough to fork out any cash to see her pudgy body wearing ill-fitting bikinis. The point of this morning's briefing is predictable. Yes, we're going to dunk on Joy Taylor and Emmanuel Acho, because why not? But there's also another reason. This is why you don't want to sell out. There's lots of people who are looking to sell their souls, and they never get very much for it. There's a good reason that there's so many executives who looks like Quasimodo, and yet they always seem to have some young nubile females who are ready to get down with them. This is the reality of the whole Me Too era. There's a line of females who will bite your arm off to get a shot at the casting couch. And these corporate creeps know it. Morality and the white media are contradictions. They're all just playing the game, the executives and the women who they're sleeping with. And for a while, to the ignorant or the impatient, it may seem like they're winning. But even if Joy Taylor hadn't gotten herself canned, would you really want to do what she did? These people always seem as if they're rich and powerful when they're on TV, when they're in front of the camera. And then, of course, when these people get canned, we found out later on that basically they were on their last legs financially. And that's why so many of them are so eager to do whatever these white media executives tell them to do. Because truth be told, they're living paycheck to paycheck, no matter how big the check may be. This is not somebody who looks in the mirror and sees a winner. This is somebody who looks in the mirror and at most she sees herself as being some sort of survivor. She basically had to do some dirty stuff in order to climb the ladder, but hey, it's a rough world and she's just doing what she's gotta do. You have to lie to yourself in order to play this game. There's no other way. And in this case, yet another suck up to the white media has found out that in the end, the game plays you. But you know, just for the record, if by some unholy miracle, some aging, creepy white media executive somewhere decides that she tickles his fancy and he wants to give her a sports job sitting on a panel somewhere, I think I can recommend a title for it. Fumbling the Bag. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. Deborah Cooper, Neil Saphir, AAP, Antonio Daniels, and Rebellious Zoe. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.